Hi guys, and welcome back to another session of Daniel's Security Academy. Today we are going to talk about malware protection, because in the past sessions we had the what is malware and some examples of malware types. So today I want to talk about how to actually protect against malware, but in a very high level overview. So defense against malware is pretty much like playing cat and mouse. So it is always one is taking a turn and the other one has to react. So cybersecurity tries to be preventative, but in reality it's most often more a reactive approach. Hackers come up with a new type of malware or a new pattern or a new approach, and cybersecurity needs to react quickly to this new approach because it was not known before or it wasn't think of before. And yeah, so it's most often reactive thing. And we have a giant collection of vendors and technology on the market to protect us against malware. And I want to bring up one example because one of the classic examples, and also because I come from a network background, it's quite obvious that I would pick the firewall. So the firewall defends the network from the outside to inside and also pretty much from the inside to the outside. But most often, depending on the network architecture, the firewall does not see everything what happens inside a network, especially inside a subnet. So the firewall does not protect everyone. And even though the firewall has functions like threat protection, content filtering, intrusion prevention, intrusion detection systems, botnet detection, and so many more features which a next generation firewall has nowadays, not to mention sandboxing and those next generation features. But modern enterprise architectures require a rethinking of this approach by using firewall as a central security gateway, because due to COVID, you have seen it, people are moving quite drastically to remote workforce, and having the same network architecture as before COVID, where everyone was centralized in their offices, does not really work anymore. So you want to bring the service edge and the security closer to the user who is sitting remotely nowadays. But this is an entirely different topic. Sorry, I got distracted here. So let's talk about different protection types, and those can be both applied for the network layer but also for the client layer. So as you see in the title, we have the classic approach and the AI-based approach. And let's start with the classic approach, which is pretty much a signature-based protection, because malware always has a signature which is specific to the malware. Well, that's not entirely true, because polymorphic malware is written in a way that it looks different every time it is on a host. So it will have a different signature on every host. So you could have 1,000 of computers infected by the very same malware, but because it's a polymorphic malware, there will be 1,000 different signatures. And signature-based protection was the state of the art for a long time, because there was no alternative pretty much. And examples for those kind of solutions is, for example, those classic antivirus software from McAfee, Trend Micro, Kaspersky, Symantec, whatever you know also from the consumer market, what you use from a consumer market. And mostly those companies also have enterprise versions of those antivirus software. And then we have, on the opposite, we have the like a little bit more modern AI-based approach. So an artificial intelligence is pretty much currently in a rising trend. So you see it everywhere in the news. Everything is supported or done by an AI nowadays. Just imagine those deep fakes. It's all done by an AI. And you find also AI in the security space for, let's say, a few years already. And they found their way also into the antivirus solutions. And what the AI does is to understand what is the baseline behavior of the user. So understand what is the user usually doing, and will pretty much learn from it. So an AI always have a learning phase. Let's make an example. We're just gonna install an AI-based solution. No matter if it's like on the client or on the network, somehow the AI gets the information by me. And I'm a user which usually logs in to my computer at 7 in the morning. I work till, let's say, 5 in the afternoon. And during this time, I usually do emails, I do web browsing, I do access Office 365, maybe in some more programs I'm usually using some SaaS solutions. And one day when the AI has learned everything and has learned the baseline pretty much, I start my computer middle of the night. For example, let's say at 2 in the night, I decide to work because I cannot sleep. And at this point, AI should know, okay, this is a strange behavior. This doesn't fit to the baseline. I need to pay close attention what the user actually does. And yeah, depending on how you configure the solution, you could pretty much tell, okay, you are out of your office times, you're out of your usual baseline. I do not grant you access to your emails because I don't think you are who you claim to be. And you will see more and more vendors are offering AI-based solutions. Also, the vendors I mentioned for the signature-based classical approach, also those are working on AI-based solutions. So I told you the protection against malware is difficult because of the huge amount of technology, but also said the huge amount of vendors. So this is a cyberscape landscape of the security vendors. I believe this is a version of 2020, maybe even 2019. So by today, there will be more logos and the separation will be different probably. But just look at those amount of vendors. How should you pick one vendor or even pick your path to security by this huge amount of offerings? And yeah, I pretty much brought some simple tips for protection. Those are primarily, let's say, for end users rather than for enterprises, but some of those are also like enterprise focused. So yeah, let's walk through it. So against malware, some tips are you should have an up-to-date antivirus software installed. I really don't care what you're using. If you use just Windows Defender, if you use standalone solution from, I don't know, McAfee, Trend Micro, Symantec, Kaspersky, you name them. I don't care, but have it up to date, which is one of the most important things. One thing you can do is to block common file types, which are used by malware. For example, Microsoft does this already by default, I believe, in Windows, to block executable files which were downloaded from the internet and don't have a signature or verification on it. And this is a pretty smart idea to protect people who are not that familiar with IT and especially not with security. Keep the system up to date all the time, so install patches, especially in Windows. Follow the update process and the guidelines of Windows. Always do install the updates, but also not only the OS updates, but also install the updates on services you're running on your computer. So if you, for example, I cannot imagine why you would do that, but if you run a web server on your computer, which is accessible from the internet, make sure this one is patched as well, because this is going to be one of the open gate pretty much for hackers to get in. And it does sound a little bit funny. I'm not sure if funny is the right word, but back up your data frequently. I think you have heard this many times. Many people are telling like back up your data. And you really should do. Because once you get hit by ransomware, you should not pay the money. You should just reinstall the backup you just did. Maybe you lose data like a week old. Maybe you even lose data 2 weeks old. But at least you are able to restore your data to a certain restore point. And the frequency of how you do your data backup is up to you and how comfortable you are with like doing the process. But there are many comfortable ways and also programs to support you to do a frequent data backup. So please do that and do not pay the ransom money to someone. For the data protection part, make sure to encrypt data, also the data backups we just spoke about, and if possible, email communication. I know for an end user, it might be out of your hand, or at least you think it's out of your hand, to encrypt data and email communication. And there are several service providers on the internet which will offer a secure service, for example, for email, which you should use. And also, if you send data or documents to someone which contain confidential data, protect the file with a password, or zip it and protect the zip file with a password, just to protect yourself and protect your data backups. Then you should deny access to non-malicious websites. This is more going towards the enterprise recommendations, but also as an end user, you could do for yourself and maybe your family, depending on what kind of chair you're sitting in, block non-malicious websites. So if someone in your family, for example, clicks on a link he or she shouldn't click on, it will not reach the destination because it's like a known phishing website. And yeah, you can also implement some controls for incoming data and applications. You can do it on firewall level, you can do it on the client level, and yeah, this definitely will help you to protect your computer. And moving forward, as phishing is one of the probably biggest and most successful hacking methods right now, I also want to address this specifically. So do not react to emails asking for any kind of financial details. So do not react to an email saying, okay, please send us your bank account details so we can wire transfer your money because, I don't know, we got spare money for whatever reason. And yeah, so do check the websites you're browsing to, if those are using HTTPS, so a secured and encrypted transport of your data and whatever you do on the website. Because if you run on a website which only runs HTTP, you need to prepare yourself that someone might be reading or following you on this website. And thirdly, do not click on links in emails. Like on emails which looks fishy, either from the format point of view or from the context of it. So if you get an email from Amazon saying, okay, your account is locked, there are usually not too many reasons why an account should be locked. So what you could do is just open up the website, in this case Amazon, manually, go to amazon.com, log into your account, and if there would be an actual problem, they would just pop it up to you directly. And on this way you can verify the statement done in an email. And most often you will see emails from Amazon, from PayPal, leading you directly to or log in into the website. And those two login fields, username and password, will just be pretty much redirected to the hacker, and he'll just get your username and password by this. So do not click on links. If you want to follow up on what's claimed in the email, or you have a belief that it might be true, just open up the website manually. For speaking about passwords before, let's speak about password protection. This is something I already touched also in the authentication session before, but I want to touch it here again a little bit more, or more briefly, let's say. So use long passwords with different characters and numbers. The recommendations about the length changes from year to year, but I would definitely tell you, like, anything above 12 characters, or let's say 12 characters plus digits plus whatever you want to put there, should be fine if you mix those properly. And do not reuse passwords unless the service or the data is not important. So if you sign up for a website where you just consume something one time or maybe two times, and the data you put in there is just maybe username, password, and not even like a lot of personal data, I can say, okay, reuse your password if you want to, make it more convenient for you. But for all those services which mean something to you, where you have confidential data, where you put something personal from you, where you maybe even put bank details, please do not reuse passwords. And especially do not use your birthday, your name, username, or other known facts for your password. So don't make your password like first name, last name, and then birth year or something like that. That's really not gonna work, because the hacker who wants to get your account will get into your account for sure. And the fifth area I want to touch for some tips to protection against malware and hackers, or in this case a little more about eavesdroppers, is on the public networks area. So whenever you are in a public Wi-Fi network, let's say at Starbucks, at an airport, do not do online banking or sensitive work, because those networks, Wi-Fi networks, are not encrypted. It's open networks, so you don't have to put in a password, which means your network traffic is not protected. So instead, you should use a VPN connection to secure yourself. So what you could do is just go to the public network and open up a VPN connection to one of those vendors you want to use, or if it's like an enterprise device, open up the VPN connection to your enterprise. And via doing this VPN connection, you make sure that your data and your traffic is encrypted once it leaves the physical antenna of your notebook going towards the access point in the public network. So your data is not flying around in the air in clear text. So if someone tries to sniff it, he or she would just see encrypted traffic. And thirdly, I want to mention this, as this is more an enterprise recommendation for sure, to use privacy filters on the laptop screen. Those are those kind of filters made of plastic usually. You just put on top of the screen, which makes it impossible to read your screen if you're not sitting directly in front of the screen. So someone sitting left or right of you cannot see your screen. Someone sitting a few meters or feet away from you cannot see your screen. And this is especially helpful to avoid eavesdropper on planes, on trains, or when you sit in a cafe. And one recommendation I want to make here, it is no paid advertisement at all. I just want to give you the recommendation based on my personal experience. If you want to use an easy to use VPN or security solution, use the Cloudflare app for your phone, for example, which is 1.1.1.1. Oh, this was, I think, one too much. Anyway, you see it on the bottom there. Download the app. It is very super easy to use. You don't need a lot of IT knowledge to use it. You just turn on the security feature, and it will just connect you securely via VPN, or at least DNS. So it's a pretty good solution, easy to use. I definitely can recommend it. I'm using it already like, I don't know, 1.5, 2 years. And it's free of charge. So it's something. And finally, I want to touch base with a concept in cybersecurity, which is called defense in depth or layered defense. Those both are used for this term here. And pretty much what it says is, if you want to protect your data, for example, you should have data security. You have security for your users. You should have application security. You should have endpoint security. You should have network security, and you should have perimeter security. Meaning, in order to get to the treasury, the data, or whatever the hacker might want from you, he or she needs to peel off this onion layer by layer and penetrate every layer to get to the destination. And I think the next image demonstrates it quite nicely, how those layered approach will deny a hacker to get to the destination, because on every layer you will have some loopholes, like you can see here in the far left plate. It has a few holes. The same applies for the second and third plate, but those holes are somewhere different. So the red lines are not able to go through the final fourth plate, which is the actual security layer before you reach the destination. So the layered approach helps you to protect whatever you have by using multiple security layers. This is one of the key features or key paradigm of cybersecurity nowadays, which you're also going to learn in the CISSP and other security certifications. And I will definitely do a more detailed session on defense in depth on its own. That's it for today's session already. I hope you could have learned and picked up something in terms of malware protection. I know it was on a quite high flight level. Let me know if you want to hear something more specific in a specific area. As I told, I will make more detailed sessions about layered defense. I will probably also do another session about phishing and social engineering itself. And yeah, just let me know what you want to hear, what you want to see, and I will try to address it. I wish you a pleasant day and stay safe. Bye bye.